Offshore circuit racing, or OCR as it's commonly called, is a recognised offshore powerboat category administered by the Royal Yachting Association, Britain's national authority for water sports. It represents the smallest of all powerboat racing categories and forms a combination of the seamanship involved in offshore racing and the multi-lap infighting normally associated with inshore racing, and is often described as the saloon car equivalent of motorsport. Boats are standard production models of the ski boat type and must be homologated by the RYA. In other words, the hull must comply with the rules, have a minimum production of 20, be freely available to the general public and be officially registered. But most ski boats do satisfy all these requirements. Engines must all be standard and are divided into 3 classes. C class up to 1300cc, B class up to 1800cc, and A class up to 2050cc. One crew have dominated A class in recent years. Cornishman Nick Barsh and Steve Kent in Samsung cameras are a winning combination. Their dominance of the sport has been achieved by meticulous preparation and continual practice. But even at this level, the quest for perfection must go on if Barsh and Kent are to stay in front.
Really only made cosmetic changes. Nothing has changed technically on it. We've readjusted the sign writing and cleaned up a few of the repairs, but the setup is very similar to last year. I've done a bit of prop work. So hopefully we've gained a little bit here and there, but I've yet to prove that. As I say, we haven't done any rough water, so I won't know until then, really.
All right. And Bob Baker's going to be your main rival, presume?
Until now, yes, he has been. I wouldn't, who knows what happened in the rest of the year, I don't know, but I think Bob will always be there or thereabouts. And today he's got a new navigator who's much lighter, so I expect him to go even quicker today, so we'll...
That's the new area of technical improvement, is it?
Well, it actually makes a big difference. Weight is quite critical on these boats. So, yes, it's Paddy Riley's daughter Sharon. She's quite an experienced navigator and considerably lighter than Robert's normal navigator.
You're sticking with yours?
Yes. I put him on a diet.
Because of its proximity to land, one of the great attractions of offshore circuit racing is the spectacular sight of up to 20 boats leaping and twisting through clouds of spray. But to achieve that, conditions have to be choppy. And as the crews prepared prior to the start of the second round of the National Championships at Carlem Bay in Cornwall, it was anything but. However, on a flat day, the start of a powerboat race is always stunning, and here was no exception. "20 high-powered outboard engines approaching it up to 80 miles per hour is awesome. And the sight of the evenly matched fleet lying line abreast on their way to the first turn is magnificent. But here, as on so many occasions during his racing career, Barsh and Samsung cameras found that little bit extra and nudged ahead. And as expected, Baker in Baltic Exchange, the blue boat, was next in line. Even for Barso, racing on a mirror flat surface isn't always plain sailing. Ultimate concentration is required, and here he was excelling. All the rest of the pack could do was follow in his wake and admire the skills of the maestro. By the end of lap 2, the fleet was beginning to spread just a little. Barsh still led A-class, with Baker 250 yards behind. Bob Reeder and Mark Greenaway in the Argos were 3rd and 4th. In B-class, husband and wife team Gary and Angela Archer were 2nd. The 16-foot Phantom, powered by a 115 Mercury outboard, was a fraction off the pace. But even so, they were in the wash of class leader Dave Wilcock and Julian Abbott in B6 Interlink Express. Wilcock, winner of the B-Class Championship in 91 and 92, is having a great start to the season after early mechanical disasters had nearly wrecked his 1992 aspirations. But back at the front, Barsh was still having things all his own way. As he negotiated the chicane at the end of lap 5, he was 31 seconds ahead of Baker and averaging well over 70 miles per hour to boot. In 5th position at the end of lap 5 were brothers Andrew and Graham Gittings from Bronsgrove. New to A-Class this year, their 20-foot Phantom is built for rougher conditions and much heavier. Consequently, they were over a minute down on the leaders with very little chance of catching them. Unless there was to be a dramatic change in the weather, of course. In 1992, such a change in conditions occurred during the race here, setting up a set of circumstances that could have cost Bosch very dearly. In worsening conditions, the heavier boats had whittled away the champion's lead, and in the final scramble for the winning post, one crashed over the top of his boat. Somehow, the propeller managed to thread its way between Bosch and Kent, just clipping the navigator's helmet. It was a close encounter and serves as a reminder that powerboat racing is a dangerous sport. This year, there were no such dangers. A friendly window in the weather had provided flat conditions, and they were to remain until the race conclusion. Sponsorship is an essential ingredient in OCR, and teams like Gary Manchester and Craig Fletcher have to rely on local companies to keep them afloat and provide them with maximum power. Meanwhile, back with the leaders, Baker was being pressurised by number 5 Bob Reeder,